Well, it's been 74 days since a fire broke out at 30 Tughlaq Crescent on Tughlaq Road in Delhi. The official bungalow of then Delhi High Court Judge Justice Yashwant Verma. It took almost a week for the first details of the incident to emerge. And now details have come in that an impeachment is likely against Justice Verma, with the process likely to start as early as in the upcoming monsoon session. Times now unravels the truth that has been established after a big investigation by three-judge panel constituted by the Supreme Court after examining the details of 55 witnesses. The truth has been chronicled in black and white in a 64-page report. This report, which has been accessed by Times Now, is currently with the President of India, submitted by the CBI. Let's break down the details for you. A three-member inquiry committee sought the probe with the three questions being asked of Justice Verma: explain the presence of cash, explain the source of the cash, and explain the removal of the cash from the spot. In fact, there were some contentions made as well. Judge Verma said that no cash or currency was found at the site, but this has been firmly refuted by the recording that was made by both the fire as well as the police officials at the spot. Another claim that was made was that nothing was removed from the storeroom. According to the probe report, evidence very clearly suggests debris and burnt articles were indeed removed from the storeroom. Justice Verma has even denied that his staff or family saw any cash, but the panel report has found details that suggest otherwise. In fact, Group Editor-in-Chief Navika Kumar, who broke this big exclusive last night, spoke to Harish Salve, former Solicitor General of India. Listen in.
Report, 64 pages of which I have actually accessed, seen the signatures of the three judges. And I want to ask you because in conclusion, well, the report reads, from the aforesaid enumerated values of judicial life, it is obvious that all the virtues expected from a judge are founded upon the concept of probity. Probity qua a judge is measured by yardstick, which is much more stringent than the probity expected of a civil post holder. But that probity, they say, it erodes the trust which needs to be now viewed very, very stringently. How do you respond to the findings of the committee?
Can I do some plain talking?
Absolutely, always.
What you just read sounds like so much rhetoric. The judgment of the Supreme Court in Ramaswamy's case only laid down a marker because the court was trying to balance applying criminal law to judges where you would leave them exposed to political pressure, you'd leave them exposed to disgruntled litigants. So a measure of protection for the judges, but not to place the judges above the law. So they said you must have the CJI's permission. Now, this is a classic case. Lord Denning had once used a very nice expression for a judgment. He says, if you take a wrong turn and keep driving, you go off the cliff. This is a case of, I said this earlier and I've said this now. This is a case of taking a wrong turn and now we have driven off the cliff. When this video reached the Chief Justice, he should have weighed what would he have done if a video like this of a minister had been received and an FIR not been registered. You would have had the Supreme Court up in flames, SIT appointed, BIT appointed, FIT appointed, CIT appointed, all sorts of things appointed, judicial probe, holding the executive to account, etc. Haven't we seen that in the past? On a CAG report, people have been arrested. Now, here is a live video. Is this not good enough case to call the police and say, if this is true, it's a violation of the Prevention of Corruption Act, register a preliminary inquiry report. Discreetly, please. It's a High Court judge. Go and do your inquiry discreetly. But if you find a good enough case to register a complaint, come to us, we'll have a look and then register the complaint. Simple. Why are you in a situation where a sitting judge of a court calls three chief justices' report perverse? What will the litigant feel? When it comes to your own, you have different standards. So, this is really, I'm very disappointed at this turn of events. That's all that I can say. All the institutions are under a lot of scrutiny, and I'll be failing in my duty to say the high stature of the judiciary has in recent times come under question. Incidents like this don't really happen.
Mr. Harish Salve, the former Chief Justice, who was still the Chief Justice when he wrote the letter to Justice Verma, clearly said that I advise the judge concerned to resign or seek voluntary retirement. In case the judge concerned does not accept the advice, proceed to intimate the President and the Prime Minister of India the findings of the three-member committee warranting initiation of proceedings for removal. And he's given a deadline that I'm retiring, I'm laying down office. If you do not respond to me, I will, inform the President and the Prime Minister. But there is absolutely no case that has been made to register an FIR or look at the process of justice in terms of a criminal act of this kind.
Navika, when the 2G report was published, it was just the CAG findings of an accountant. How long did it take the Supreme Court to get upset saying, why isn't the criminal case being registered? Or did they advise the minister, why don't you resign and go home? Here you have a report of 3 judges, 3 chief justices. What's the solution? Resign and go home? Would they be happy if a minister caught with his hand in the till? And that's the allegation. I don't know if it's true or false. I have not read the report. I'm going by what you said, and I believe what you say. If this is the report, then I dare say, what is the question of resigning and going away? Would that be acceptable for a politician, or would you and your colleagues on the different electronic channels be screaming murder by now if a minister who had been caught with cash burning in his house had been allowed to resign and go? And why do we have different standards for judges? Should we have higher standards or lower standards? That's why what the postscript which you were reading, I said, I'm sorry to say, to me, sounds like a bit of rhetoric.
But Mr. Harish Salve, I'm not saying any of this from, from my side. I have noted the contents of the report, and in my defense, I can only say that as a journalist, as a member of the Fourth Estate, to my mind, it is important to bring out the truth for the citizens. That is the duty that falls upon me. The report, in its final paragraph, says, this committee thus holds the cash money was found in the storeroom of 30 Tughlaq Crescent, New Delhi, officially occupied by Justice Verma. More so, the access to the storeroom has been found to be within the covert or active control of Justice Verma and his family members, and that by way of strong inferential evidence, it is established that the burnt cash stroke money was got removed from the storeroom during the wee hours of 15th March 2025 from Tughlaq Crescent. Keeping in view the direct and electronic evidence on record, this committee is firmly of the view that there is sufficient substance in the allegations, and the misconduct found proved is serious enough to call for initiation of proceedings of removal of Justice Yashwant Verma, Judge of the Allahabad High Court. This is not a figment of my imagination.
No. I didn't suggest that for a moment. I just said I've not read the report, but I go by what you say because you're an extremely responsible journalist and you're reading. I have comments, as I said, on 2 layers. First of all, you didn't need a 3-judges committee, because when you had electronic evidence like this, it should straightaway have been given to an agency which has expertise in investigation, the CBI. They could have been asked to do a preliminary inquiry, come back to the Chief Justice, and with the clearance that if the preliminary inquiry shows the commission of an offense, the law will follow its course. The Supreme Court would have looked so strong, saying that be so high you are, howsoever high you may be, the law is above you, including if you are one of our own. But they didn't do that. They appointed a committee. Now the committee has indicted him as the operative paras you just read. If a committee had indicted a minister, would you have asked him to resign? And if you had asked a minister who's been indicted by a committee to resign, if some such thing had happened, by now you and your colleagues on electronic channels would have been scheming murder at the government, right? That's my point.
No, but why only talk about ministers and judges? What about the common man? If this kind of cash was found in our house, a journalist's house,
yes,
we would be behind bars.
No, but we are lesser mortals. We are lesser mortals.
Okay.
In our great democracy, we are clearly lesser mortals. I'm talking of even ministers. If something had been found, even and you know when the Supreme Court takes on this mantle, and the executive, there's another reason, but levity apart, there's another reason why I mentioned minister. They are a co-equal institution. Let's never forget. The three branches of government are the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. If cash had been found in the house of a member of parliament, if cash had been found in the house of a minister, they are co-equal branches of government. What standards of rule of law would have been applied? Have the same standard been applied here? And if they haven't, has the court done itself proud? That's my point.
Well, Mr. Harish Salve, I also want to ask you, because the committee also talks about the FIR and the Panchnama, and it says there is no dispute regarding this aspect, that there were household articles which were kept in the storeroom, which is consistent stand of the household staff, immediate family. The presence of a liquor cabinet located close to the switch box is also a matter of record, which has been noticed by the committee in its spot inspection. And it is common knowledge that liquor is highly volatile liquid, and bottles have been affected by the fire, and which also increased the fire. It says the reasons as to why the police did not choose to initiate any investigation or lodge an FIR on account of sensitivity of the issue and lack of information of any crime scene and the absence of Justice Verma. The legal position as such regarding of lodging an FIR against a sitting judge was given. Also, the ambit of the committee is not to find fault with the action or inaction of the fire personnel or police personnel. So are questions not going to be asked about this?
No, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, as they have said, as the Ramaswamy judgment says, you cannot order an investigation into a sitting judge without an order of the CJI. That is why the government, I believe, forwarded all this to the CJI saying, what, my lord, do you want us to do? He and his committee of judges should have seen the videos and taken a call. And in my humble view, they took the wrong call. According to me, even a committee of inquiry was not required. But they had a committee of inquiry. After having ordered a committee of inquiry which has passed this, I would say prima facie, they have found him guilty. Let's not go higher, because you don't need a higher standard. Prima facie, they have found him guilty. That's the standard for registering an FIR. You don't even need prima facie guilt. You need the suspicion of the commission of an offense. Here they found him prima facie guilty. So in law, the standard has been crossed. And all I'm saying is today, when there is so much debate about the judiciary, Article 142, the scope of powers, etc., 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 the judiciary is on front page. And rightly so, in a vibrant democracy, no institution of governance is free from public scrutiny. I think Indian democracy has matured to that level. Even the judges are not free from public scrutiny. If that is so, this was an occasion that the Supreme Court could have taken a position to show that even if you're a judge, even if you're one of us, how so high you may be, the law is above you. The rule of law must prevail. I'm sorry, this standard has not, in my very humble view, the asking him to resign and go away is not something which is acceptable.
Well, but even that hasn't happened, Harish Salve. Would justice ever be done? Public scrutiny that you hold in high regard, will it come to naught?
As they say, watch the space. I'm sure if people like you keep exposing this, At some point, somebody will turn.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope for the best, and let's hope that finally justice is done for the sake of 140 crore people to continue to maintain their faith in the judiciary. It is important that action needs to be demonstrated. Thank you very much, Harish Salve.